Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Geek Base. So I think thanks first of all to everyone of you to come forward and join this meetup on a typical Bangalore day. So I expect a couple of more faces to be there by around 3:30 or so. But yeah, I can see a lot of good new faces, and that's great. So cool. So to give you a brief introduction about GeekyAnts, whom all you don't know, so we call ourselves a product and services company, and we have like we generally work for the clients for making enterprise applications. But apart from that, we also have a lot of good in-house products, right? I expect that you might heard about native base, something called native base or top geek. So yeah, those are there like we are working on, and then we have great experiences so far while developing the projects. Now to see about here this is what we do: research, collaborate, build. I expect most of you have noticed the poster out there. Welcome to the base of the mad scientist. So that's what we do. We research, we collaborate, and build. Because of eventually, like when you are building a good product, until you research it and you collaborate with your fellow teammates, it doesn't get completed to a good one, right? So that's what it is. And here, is the official poster for our React meetup today. So if you look at, at the Geeky Ants, at the journey of Geeky Ants, we always have believed in the community-driven learning, right? Because the reason behind it, learning some things is great, but then unless you are, delivering that knowledge to the society or to your fellow community, the learning doesn't get completed, right? So we always, believed in community-driven learning, and that's why we have started initiative to, build these communities stronger, to, help the fellow developers out there. So yeah, welcome once again to the React Meetup, and I'll be your host for today. You have to gel me out till 6 o'clock. So, bit introduction about me is I am an engineering manager here at GeekyAnts, and I currently lead the React community. So a bit about me, my personal things is I always am a like lifetime learner. Apart from that, I am a developer. That's my basic identity, you can say. Now, for the last few months, I also mentor a lot of people, and it's been great. To be very honest, seeing growing up a developer from a junior developer to a senior or lead, it gives me an intense, immense satisfaction. Apart from that, I am a hardcore football fan. So I have like three clubs which is support by my heart. One is the United, the other one is Real Madrid, and the last but not the least is who all you follow. Like amongst you all, if you follow Indian football, you would be know there's something called East Bengal FC, based out of Calcutta, India. So yeah, these are my clubs. You can follow me on Twitter on this handle, Ganguly_Roddy. Feel free to connect to this Wi-Fi. These are the credentials for the Wi-Fi for better access. And we have the speakers list over here. So Anutosh will be the first speaker going to walk us through React VR and React 360. That's an amazing React library to work with. Then we have Bivashan, who will be walking us through migrating partially from an Apple URL to a Next.js application. Then we have Sagar, who will be focusing on how he turned into a developer from a marketing background, and he will be sharing us the experiences that he has faced so far. And then we have Arijit Patra joining us from Berlin today, by the way. So clap for him. He will be walking us through design system. So let's get started. Before we start here, I just want to thank the entire backend team, Adrika, Bhushan, and Shana, and all the team members to arrange this so seamlessly. They have worked a lot to make this happen for the last couple of months, and yeah, that's the result. We all are here today. And now to start with, I'll introduce on stage Balaji as the keynote speaker. So Balaji, over to you, please.
Thanks Anandam. Hello everyone. Well, very good afternoon. React 2022 Hybrid Meetup. So, I welcome you all. So, let's get started. A brief introduction about myself. So I am Balaji. I'm currently working as a software engineer in GeekyAnts, and I would be the keynote speaker, and I would be setting the theme for this meetup. So let's get started. What's new in React? So the latest React version is 18.2.0, and let's see what are the major updates in React 18. The first one is improved automatic batching. This is really an interesting update because this technically requires no change from our end, and this is something which happens behind the scenes. So batching in React means if two states are changed in a sequence, the component will be re-rendered only once. So for example, if I change a state in one line and if I try to change another state on the very next line, it doesn't make sense to re-render the component twice. So with automatic batching, now the component would be re-rendered only once. Uh, so this is the current update, and this automatic batching was supported in React 17 as well, but it was only with in response to the browser events. So, for example, this was happening only inside a function which was called on click event or any other browser events. But with React 18, this has changed, and now automatic batching occurs everywhere. So this is one of the great update because this will improve the performance in very large scale applications. Coming to the next thing, that is concurrency. So concurrency is all about processing multiple simultaneous state updates. So now, with this concurrency, there is a clear distinction between something called as urgent updates and the transition updates. So urgent updates are the one which is having more priority over the transition updates. So with React 18, now we can tell React that a particular state update is of lower priority by using one of the newly introduced hooks called use transition hook. And we also have an equivalent API for that called the start transition. So this API can be used in places where hooks cannot be used. So now we can wrap a particular state update inside this use transition hook to let React know that it can be handled with lower priority. And the next one is improved suspense. So even the suspense element was supported in React 17, but it was majorly used to wrap the lazily loaded component. So this was used to show a fallback component until the lazily loaded component was completely downloaded, or that particular bundle was completely downloaded. But prior to React 18, we could not use the suspense element if we also had the server-side rendering in our application. So with React 18, this has changed, and now we can use suspense element with SSR as well. So one of the major issues with SSR is that we cannot send all of the data at once to the user. So first the HTML is sent and then the CSS, and by the time the JavaScript could still be processing in the server. So we call this as the hydrating time. So React 18 now offers a solution to handle this hydrating time by sending the alternate component with the suspense element. For example, uh, if there is a instead of like sending the HTML or CSS of a component which is heavily dependent on JavaScript, we can send an alternate component for some time. So once that JavaScript is completely loaded in the server, it automatically replaces the alternate component with the actual one. So this is about improved suspense. So this basically helps to improve the user experience when we are using server-side rendering. And the next one is turbo pack. So this was like one of the most trending topics on social media very recently. So Urql introduced turbo pack. So it is an incremental bundler which is optimized for TypeScript and JavaScript, and it is written in Rust. And this claims to be the successor of Webpack. And the main principle behind this turbo pack is a concept called incremental uh, processing. So what this does is the build time should actually correlate to the size of the diffs rather than the size of the application. So their main agenda was not to rebuild something which is already built. They only had to rebuild the changes. So this was their main principle behind this turbo pack, and this turbo pack claims to be almost like 10x faster than Wheat, and for very large scale applications, it almost claims to be 20x faster than Vite and almost like 100 times faster than Webpack. So this was about like this is a bit introduction about TurboPack and what is the future scope of React. So there is one more interesting thing which is not yet there, but we could probably see them in the future are server React server components. So these React server components are not just pre-rendered in the server, but they're meant to be executed only on the server side. So once if this feature is available, we can effectively see React as a full stack framework. So probably like this is still in the alpha stage, and we can probably see them in the future. So React Wizard, this is a React community based out of GeekyAnts, and we conduct various tech talks and workshops very frequently. So if you guys are interested in that, please follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. And finally, the code of conduct: do not use any hate speech and inappropriate comments. Be respectful. This is a space for growth and learning. Please promote that and get to know your fellow mates. Thank you.
Well, awesome, Balaji, for the great presentation over there. So now it's the time to jump into the main part of the agenda today. So we'll be starting with one of our speakers. So I'd like to come on stage Anutosh Ghosh. So currently he's a software engineer for MSys Technologies Private Limited. So Anutosh will be presenting us something on React VR and React 360. So we look forward to at your presentation, Anutosh. All the best.
You have to click this. No, we need to connect first. Okay, second special. Which one? The presentation. Okay. Slideshow. Cool. Okay. Fine. I just need to check history. So I need to check the history. You are there in the history, right? Yeah. Giving that. Good afternoon, everyone. So today I will be talking about React 360 and React VR. So I think you have all heard of this term VR, that is virtual reality. So basically, it is the simulation of real life experiences, and this framework or library React 360 and React VR actually helps us to create those kinds of applications which supports this virtual reality, or like or it can also display like we can create applications which can show us 360 degree environments or ecosystems. So the picture which you see here is actually, this is the British Museum, which has been and this website has been used like created using this React 360. So you can basically visit this website in a three-dimensional tour. So I will show you the site as well. So you can see that this is basically a three-dimensional website. Like you can so this site is related to this Arctic culture and climate, and this is built using this React 360. You can see the three-dimensional view of this website, and there are the different kind of clothes which are used by the Arctic people, and their culture and everything is shown here. Like And also there are tooltips which will give you further details about the kind of clothings and all that. So this is a possible application of this React 360 and React VR. uh, Yeah, so coming to what is React 360 and React VR. So as I said that React 360 is a framework for creating three dimensional three dimensional interfaces, and you can actually feel that it is very close to real life experiences, and it will show you that 360-degree view of the entire thing, like I showed. So it this React 360 is pairing with this APIs like WebGL and WebVR. So these two are the APIs which are mainly used for the three-dimensional effect. So here the WebGL, as you can see, is actually a JavaScript API which is used for rendering the interactive 2D and 3D graphics, and it is compatible with the web browsers, like the modern web browsers we are having. And WebVR is actually replaced by this WebXR. So this is also an API which is used for support on different virtual reality devices, like this Oculus and HTC Vive. So there are plenty of these virtual reality devices which need support, and WebXR is the API which is helping in that. So coming to the next point is why we should think about React VR and React 360. Like you can actually experience a three-dimensional world, like which is very close to our real life world. Then it supports cross-platform development. So if you're developing any applications based on React VR and React 360, it will be supported not only on desktop mobiles but also on VR devices. So it is cross-platform in nature. So once you develop, it will support on all kinds of devices, and thus it saves the development costs and efforts. Then it is also in alignment with the Web3 and Metaverse revolution, which although it is now at a beginning stage, but in future it may expand to like many applications, and thus this gives us a very enriching and immersive experience. So the prerequisites which you need to know before starting projects on these technologies are like this equirectangular images. That means these images are basically 360-degree in nature. So these are uh, the nature of these images is panoramic and spherical, rather than just 2D images, which only works on the X and Y planes. Then you need the knowledge of 3D coordinate system, like the three axis, as we know, like X, Y, and Z axis, and the different kinds of movements which are happening in these axes, like the translate, like the linear motion in X, Y, and Z axis, then the rotation, like the rotation on the basis of each axis, and also the objects which are used in this kind of React 360 applications. They can be scaled, like the dimension can be increased or decreased. So that is what is scaling. So in the picture that you saw, that book, so you can see the orientation of the book is different in the two pictures. Like in one picture, the book is standing, and on one picture the book is being kept on the table. So this can be achieved with different kinds of these properties, like translate and rotate along different axes, like X, Y, and Z axis. So building blocks of this React 360 applications. So basically, like how we are aware of the HTML native tags and or any customized components which we are building in React. In the same way, React 360 we need the following tags uh, for uh, for rendering the UI interfaces. So the most used tag is the view tag, which is the most fundamental tag, and it is acting as a wrapper or container. The text is the tag which where we can insert all this text and strings. The wear button is the button for handling the click events. The entities, the objects which we are using in the like the React 360 environment. Like for example, the book in the earlier site, like earlier slide. So that was actually an entity, and the environment is the ecosystem where the React 360. For example, in this case, the environment is that entire the entire desk and that lamp. So that is the entire ecosystem, and the book can be an object here, the lamp can be an object. So ecosystem is basically, the environment is basically the ecosystem where that React 360 like applications are being built. Then there is also use of we can also use the we can also add sound or audio as well, using this audio modules. So this is how you can see that we can implement the sounds, we can add the sounds to the React 360 and React VR applications. So we have to import this native modules from React 360 package, and we have to use this audio, we have to destructure this audio module from native modules. And here you have to use the source, where you have to use the path for the mp3 file. You can also add the volume, like the volume can be increased or decreased. So in the left you can see that there is a VR button. So like we said that this VR button is one of the building blocks. So here so here on click event you can actually play the audio with the help of this audio module. And similarly on the right picture you can see that this audio is being played when you open the React VR application without any kind of events. Like when you open the application, it will play the audio. So it is using this method, play environmental. So to get started, you have to have Node and npm installed on your system, and then you have to install the React 360 package using the command. And then for creating the project, you have to use the React 360 init and then the project name. And yeah, so this is the basic way to how you can start creating a React 360 application. After that, you can go through the documentation or other resources to add any advanced features that you need maybe in future, like audio sounds or any other things. Then you can deploy it using this Surge. So Surge is basically a website where you can create, where you can host, or where you can get the domain after you push the static build files. So you can install Surge globally using the command, and after that you can copy all the static assets to the to the to the build file. And after that you can use the search command to get the URL, like the hosting URL. So I have created a very simple application related to this React 360. So you can see that the view of the mountain is three-dimensional in nature. Like you can see it in all directions. So I was planning to add some sounds as well, but audio as well, but I could not do that. I did not get time. So the applications and scope for React 360 and React VR is that it can be used in gaming applications. In gaming applications, using these VR devices like Oculus, you can see the device Oculus, which is a VR device. And apart from that, I already showed you one realistic application which is already present, like that British Museum. So there you can visit the entire museum in three-dimensional kind of world. So it feels very real, like you are present at that exact place. Apart from that, the future scope of applications can be many things. Like for example, it can be used for tourism, like city tourism, where this kind of VR applications can be built using so that you can get directions to different parts of the city and different restaurants or cafes or anything. So and it will be in a three-dimensional world. So that is one application that can be there. The other application is that whenever you are searching for apartments or rooms, then you can then this kind of 3D applications can help you to see the entire view of the rooms and flats like that. The other application can be also like booking seats. How when you are booking seats in the cinema halls, like in the dark, it's difficult to find the seats. So if you are using VR applications and it can show you some light where your seat is like that, it can be maybe a future application like that. So pros are that it can help. React 360 applications can help to give virtual tours for old people and physically challenged people who can't travel or go outside. Uh, and then this if you are building this kind of applications, it's recreational in nature and you can explore your creative side. It also helps in mental relaxation and refreshment, and it gives you real world immersive experiences with the three-dimensional world and audio and sound effects. Cons are actually real life experiences cannot substitute virtual reality experiences, so we can't totally like get addicted to this kind of applications, and we should be self aware that how much we are using this kind of applications. And also we should not be, like as I said, too much involved in this kind of applications and get lethargic and lazy, like. So yeah, that's all. Thank you. Huh. You can ask in the panel session, I will answer.
Wow, cool stuff, Anutosh. By the way, anyone willing to explore more on React 360, you can spam Anutosh from tonight, and you can spoil his weekend. I'm gonna do you. I mean, unfortunately, tomorrow. I mean, today night I'm flying and I have to catch a flight. Otherwise, I could have spoiled your Saturday night. But yeah, maybe tomorrow. Cool. So nice to see React 360, and I'm excited to explore it more. The next speaker is Sagar Jait. So he's an SD at Photon right now, and he'll be presenting us to like how he sort of I mean, traversed his career from a marketer to a developer, and I mean, the topic that he's gonna present is the building is not enough. So I hope it's gonna be a lot more product oriented. So yeah, excited to see that. So before I welcome Sagar on stage, I just wanted to I just forgot a couple of things to say earlier. So after these speakers, we'll have lunch. I mean, coffee or tea break, so you guys can go grab some coffee and use your cell phones, and also utilize the time to communicate with your peers over here. And after that we'll be having two more speakers around us, and then after that we'll be having two more speakers around that, and then we'll be ending the session by a panel discussion. It will be live Q&A session. So either me or Balaji will be coming back once again then. Sagar, over to you. Please come on the stage.
All good? Yeah. Hi, guys. Uh, my name is Sagar. I'll be talking about hustler, hacker, hipster. Just building is not enough. I'm someone who is coming from a non-technical background. So my first question to the audience is, uh, just first question to the audience is, raise your hand if you guys are from non-technical background. I just want to see how many of you are from non-technical background. All are from technical. Yeah, I see two hands.
But they are not into technology.
Yeah, that's great. That means everyone can understand some technical jargon, I can say. Yeah, that's good. Now let's move ahead. Uh, So I started my career as a digital marketer first, and over the period of time, I realized that I wanted more from my desires, and I figured out that programming is something that will allow me to go ahead and make a very good career out of it. I already had some experience in WordPress and website development, so I decided to move forward with the development side, coding side. I first learned HTML, CSS, followed by JavaScript, and when I was learning JavaScript, I get to know that React is something which is very great when you want to develop web applications with React. So fast forward to that, after 2 years into digital marketing and then 2.5 into software engineering, I'm working as a senior software engineer at Photon. And over the period of time, I realized that the decision to switch from marketing and coding, uh, I made that decision because I discovered there is a combination of abilities that you can that those are still required into programming also. Coming from marketing background, I see a lot of developers struggles with the ability to communicate, the ability to express themselves. uh, Coding is great, but having ability to express your thoughts in the meeting also, those are also important. So I will be sharing 3H. These are three acronyms, or you can say three names or three skills or abilities that will help you to become a better developer, a overall better developer. So these are these three abilities. First is a hacker. So that's our core ability as a developer, that we want to become a hacker, a person who is capable enough to build and code things and can scale it to up to million users. And you need to make sure that your code doesn't break the production. So that's the core purpose or core skill of a hacker. Then moving ahead, the next one is hipster. Hipster is a person who can be a technical or non-technical, who is very good with designs, UIs, and in internal thinking how user is reacting with your software or a web application. Then the next H is hipster. H is hustler. Sorry, a person who understands the user, the market, and will be able to do research and make a marketing decision when it's come to programming. So there are a lot of activities like refer and earn. So when you're building these kind of features for your web application or mobile application, you need to think from a user point of view, from a marketing point of view, that how these features are going to help users. So go just giving the names again. First one is hacker, the person who codes. Second one is hipster, the person who knows UI and very good with designs. And a hipster is a hustler is someone who is good with marketing side. So what I understood is, as you grow in the career, as you go in the coding career, you need not just only one, but the combination of these three abilities, and you can always transform from one ability to another ability. So just a descriptive answers about how these three abilities are going to help you. So the first major advantage is, if you look at these, if you acquire these three abilities, is uh, it will make you more desirable. Consider someone who is just a developer and can't communicate, don't know how to build great designs, and don't have that much knowledge about UI and user experience. Then you'll be given more preference when it's come to hiring, and that will be very helpful to you to get hired. And overall it will give you more clarity about what exactly you're building. So when you join MNCs, right, you will have a different people doing different kind of job. But once you have an understanding, you can actually communicate with those people very clearly, and you can say that, okay, this feature makes sense, and in the production side, on coding side, I'm making in that way, so that will is that okay or not. The most important of that is, once you have these three abilities like code, market, and design, you can actually work on your own ideas. So I have worked on a lot of my small problems, and I've converted that into web apps. And these can be side hustles, and over the period of time, as you go and improve your ability, improve each and every ability, at some point you're going to strike yourself, and you'll be making industry standard product as your side hustle, and that will open up a lot of doors for you as a career opportunity. So most of the developers actually work with the core only React for 1 to 2 years or maximum 3 years. Then they actually venture out. They venture out into, most probably, if you're a React developer, you must be venturing out into backend side. So you're a JavaScript developer, then you will learn how to use JavaScript on a backend. First, you master the front end, then you go ahead, then you go for a backend. Doing so you will pick some technologies, and there are few technologies which goes to each other very well. So we'll be looking at a one particular stack. So stack is a bunch of technologies that allows you to build a complete web application. So we'll be looking at a Merge stack. But before we go into that Merge stack, what exactly is that? Let's talk about why exactly I'm taking that Merge stack here, because there are multiple stacks. Why exactly Merge stack is important? So if you look at Merge stack allows you to use JavaScript and create the complete web app, right? The second core the second core reason why people choose Merge stack to build their complete web application is the massive community and the learning opportunities on YouTube or Udemy or any premium course. So if you have any question and you're able to and you're able to question that, like you can form a question and just type on YouTube, you'll get answer of each and every question. So you can just follow along code and move ahead and improve your Monstack abilities. And also, a typical Monstack application follows MVC pattern, which stands for Model View Controller. So View is actually React, and model and controllers are coming from backend. We'll have a look at those on the next screen. A lot of people say that Merge stack is not that much robust. Compare that to Java and more legacy software. But what I believe is, current Merge stack applications are so solid that most of the Indian startups and a lot of new companies and emerging companies are using this stack. It also allows you to build products very fast. So you don't need to worry about types when you initially want to prototype this thing. You don't need to worry about type system, you don't need to worry about CSS. You can just start building your core product first, few features first, and then test it out. And doing CSS, as we are using MERN stack, there is a React in it. The R stand for React. So React has a lot of CSS opportunity, CSS features also. You can use style components, you can use Sass, you can use Tailwind CSS. That allows you to build website very rapidly. So I talked about like a lot of startups are using MERN stack. There are few examples of startups which those are using MERN stack. So you can see the Grow, An Academy, Udemy, An Academy, Upgrad, Dealshare, Taika Invest, ShareChat, and among the Indian startup uh, we have Facebook, Instagram, and the family of Instagram apps, and Twitter also. So all these web apps, if you see them, there's one more missing. Uh, it was small case, I think. So all these applications are handling millions of users. So MERN is a part of their core framework. So let's go deeper and look into what exactly is MERN is. So MERN is an acronym, a short form for technologies, four technologies. The M stand for MongoDB, which is an document-based non-SQL database. So so I started with just directly non document-based non-SQL database. So I still don't know anything about SQL. I just work with MongoDB and new document-based databases. It's little weird because whenever I get into call with recruiter or when someone is talking about SQL, I just say that okay, MongoDB is good enough. I'm not looking at anything else. Then the second framework is the second letter is E, which stand for Express. It's actually complete framework for a backend, which allows you to which extract out lot of nitty gritty details. Like it just same like if you want to write a backend code, you need to write it in Node, and if you want to write a front end code, you need to write in Java. So you can use jQuery or vanilla JavaScript. But React allows you to abstract a lot of things out from that and gives you very good developer friendly environment to work on. So Express is something which works, which runs on a Node.js and make it very easy to make an API, your controllers, and you can perform a lot of operations using Node.js file system on the server. Yeah. So that's about Express. Then the next we have a React. React is a front end library. I think that should be enough. Uh, yeah. So React allows you to the core. It's React is not a framework, guys. I think you guys must be aware. It's not a framework. It's just a library, and the flexibility of React allows you to implement multiple applications or multiple open source project, combine that together and build whatever that you want. So if you actually want to use React with PHP, you can use that, you can do that. If you want to use another state management solution, you can use that. But there are standards when it's come to React that most of the people in industry follow. So when it's come to React, we have Redux as a state management, React router as a routing option. And if you want to do server side things, we have Next.js and server components. React is a very robust framework to build UI. And the last we have a Node. Last N stand for Node. Node is actually a JavaScript runtime which allows you to run JavaScript on server, not on a client. Client means our browsers. So the Node, the JavaScript is actually running on a server which is somewhere in US or UK or any kind of server farms, and which allows you to run JavaScript on that, and you can use that to create your entire backend. You can on top of that, if you use Express, it will make you very easy to use backend. So I'll give you a very fun insight. Um, to set up a MERN stack, I have done it so many times. Right now, I can set up a React app, a basic React app, a basic MongoDB database, and Express within 30 minutes. So I can start a new project within a 30 minutes. It has become so easy. And actually, once you combine all this together and you do repetition, it becomes easy. You get to know about, okay, I need to use this file and I need to use that file to make to get started with my project. So that's it about the Mern stack. And actually, the Mern stack is the best example of a classic 3H. The Mern stacks allows you to look into a complete stack. That means you're not just looking at the front end, right? You're just not looking at developing or writing code for a front end user. So when you're building a complete application, you will be looking at as a hacker, you will be looking at writing front end and back end code. But also, if you're writing backend code, you need to decide your system designs. You need to do low level system design, high level system design. So actually, the design part is also included in Hipster. So it's not just a UI design. So I call that UI designing, and the system design, I call that technical designing and non-technical designing. So anything related to graphics come into uh, non-technical design, and anything related to technical design which requires you to put a logic, that's come into the technical design. Then we have a hustler, sorry. As you go on designing low level systems, you actually need to understand how many users are there. So users, when I say users, those are not actually using your app. That those can be managers, those can be administrative. So you need to identify all key players in all key players in the web app that you're building. And once you understand each and every player, you will understand their requirements. And once you understand their requirements, you will have a lot of questions like what exactly this user want, how I can present that to that user. So that actually comes under the business side. Like if you join MNC, that has been taken care by some McKinsey consultant or your product manager. Those will decide on behalf of you that, okay, the user needs the input field name should be something like this, the input should behave like this. So all of these kind of business decision will be taken care by them. And again, if you have that skill as a Stack developer, as you're building your personal project with Stack, you'll get to understand that. And again, as a developer, you will have an edge over meetings when your PM is having a conversation with you or asking a team that, okay, this is something where I want an input from a developer team. Then you can give at least few answers. So till now I have talked about majorly hacker. The Mern stack as actually majorly a person who is coding. So let's talk about hipster. So we have talked about like how we can how we can use ability to do design. Yeah. But I haven't talked about how a developer, how a front end engineer can become a hipster, and how he should be going, how he should be approaching, how he should be learning UI designing and design itself. So I will present you just two activities to master UI UX as a front end developer, and these are very minimal activities. You don't need to like. I'm not teaching you UI and UX here. Just to get a perspective from a front end developer side. The first activity that you should do is just visit 3 websites daily and just observe them as a user, not as a developer, as a user. So if you go to youtube.com, you must have been going to youtube.com. So as a user, you are going there. So you have a problem, you have a question in mind, and you quickly want to search it, and YouTube gives you a result. So someone must have thought about that process and design the YouTube layout in a such a way that problem is solved there, right? But just observing, the act of observation will help you to identify a lot of repetitive components. So you'll see the in the Indian startup ecosystem, the material design is not that popular. Flat design is more popular. There are few websites that you can use to achieve that, like daily. If you want to visit websites, you can actually subscribe to startup newsletter. They will send you a startups. Why I'm picking startups here? Because startup has a very small team and they want to work it very efficiently, and as they work efficiently they build very good products, and they use mostly cutting edge technologies. And you will see a lot of new UI patterns coming from new startup. So the best example for that should be Cred. So Cred introduced the 3D layout. So if you use the Cred app, that gives you very 3D feeling. 2D combined with 3D. The previous app was very 3D. So you'll get these kind of insight. Crunchbase website, again, where you can find lot of companies, lot of URLs. And if you just go into LinkedIn and search for companies in Bangalore, the startup companies in Bangalore, you can visit their landing page and go to their website, observe their website, and get some insights on designs, how they have building designs. The second part is about learning the tools. So you can always observe, but let's say you want to create a landing page for your side as well. How will you go about that? You should just learn Figma. You shouldn't be looking at any other application to do UI UX, basic UI UX. Then normal Canva should be good to just manipulate with images. There are a few other apps like remove BG, which remove your backgrounds, and the YouTube should be fine for learning. You don't need to buy any expensive course to learn UI UX. These are some examples. I used this activity for almost 6 months, and I went from that UI to this UI, and this is still intermediate level UI. So I use the same methodologies to go from very dull developer who was not able to get his idea out on paper and then into code. Uh, the, yeah, so this was about 1 year ago, and I'm still doing this activity today. And you can see my design has been improved to this design is built by me yesterday. So this is emotional tracker application. So I'm just building this on React and Merge stack. And I was able to get the project set up again in 30 minutes and build this UI almost in 1 hour. This is sorry. This is a TikTok downloader. Anyhow, TikTok is banned in India, but yeah, this website is actually live, and I'm receiving traffic from US. The first UI example is the currently my side hustle career Dekho, where you can search anything related to any career, and the UI will guide you through the entire career path. So let's talk about. So this was about hacking, then designing. Let's talk about the business side and marketing as a front end developer. So you don't need to go into that depth when it's come to marketing. You just need to understand as a developer, the most closest thing to you in terms of marketing is actually SEO, stands for search engine optimization, where you need to make sure that you are using Google standards, you are using internet standards, so your web pages that you're making, Google and any search engine is able to crawl that. And you will find again a lot of videos on YouTube how you can improve that. uh, and one more basic thing that you can do is whenever you think about any web application, you can just think from the owner point of view. Let's say your clients come to you and say that I want to build an application for a stock trading, I want to build an application to host my videos, host my courses. So if you think from an owner point of view that this product is mine, then you will start exploring few questions like, if I'm the owner, who is the audience? Like to whom I'm making this application, what is the market size of it, is there any existing applications are there, I can go ahead and use those, I can look at those. The second activity that you can do is actually learning marketing, not actively but passively, and learning distribution. So the first activity in learning that you can do is just create your WordPress blog. You don't need to create that in React. Just create a basic WordPress blog. Start sharing your thoughts. Start sharing your technical as well as non-technical thoughts. Just one post a month will give you very good idea about how marketing actually works, because you'll be keen to share your blog post to someone else, but they are not interested in your blog post, so you'll figure out a way to market that easily. The next part is actually just sharing that on LinkedIn. So I'm assuming that most of you guys might be looking for a job or might be looking for opportunity. Constantly sharing whatever that you're learning is actually a marketing skill, and once you become good in that, you can actually share any thought, any technical idea easily, and that will open up a very good distribution channel for yourself and your next side hustle, or just next job opportunity. So I will suggest you to just stick ahead with WordPress. And when it's come to social media management and distribution, I just use this app called Buffer, which is just a basic app for scheduling. Just a reminder that out of 10 people, one only has the ability to build, but out of 100 developers, only one developer has ability to design, build, and do market research. Thank you so much, guys. This is Sagar Jaid, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Insightful presentation, Sagar. I think that was quite inspiring to all who are not from the technical background. So we are almost at the mid of the event, and I think okay. So raise your hand who all think that it's been a little boring and you need some refreshment, at least a break, a small break. Okay, no one. Strange to see, man. Okay, I believe you more also is thinking the same. Cool. So we are going for a refreshment break for around Adhika, how much time? 15 minutes. So I'll catch you up at 4:30. Please help yourself. Having the refreshments out there. Enjoy the time. Welcome back after the refreshment. So this time we have a speaker coming off joining us from Berlin. But before that, I have a question for the audience. So have any one of you ever felt while development that, dude, what does the designer do? Why? I mean, they just probably drag and drop something on Sketch or Figma, and that's all. Like their work is done. Anyone from you? Like for me, I have personally felt it very. I mean, multiple times in the earlier days of my career. Anyone else? I mean, it's fine. You all can raise your hands. Who all are still restricting yourself, you can raise your hands if it's a true. Okay, cool. I think yeah, we all set for Arijit Patra from joining us from Berlin today. So currently he's an senior software developer at Instafright. And a little introduction about him is the first time I met him in my college. So he was basically one of the very few seniors from whom I came to know about internships back in 2014, 2013, 2014, 2015. And then I mean, apart from development, like he has a lot of other interest as well. So I mean, be it anything, if you just reach out to him, he will be helping you out every time. Okay, so I think we are all set to bring on camera Arijit. Welcome, welcome to GeekyAnts. I know that you won't be able to see any of the audience over here, but you can trust me. We have a lot of audience hearing to you today.
Okay, amazing, amazing. Thanks, Arindam, for the lovely introduction. And I hope everyone can hear me fine. So it makes me sad that I am not offline along with you guys and doing this because I love to keep my what do you call it, these kind of talks or sessions interactive. But anyways, let's see. I hope we will all enjoy it together for the next 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so should we go ahead then, Arindam?
I think yes, we are all set.
So people can see the slides as well, right? Okay, cool, cool. Okay, so yeah, welcome to Design Systems 101 or 101. This won't be a very in-depth thing, but just a basic introduction with you all to with design systems. And this is not system design, so don't confuse it. I think you wouldn't have seen so much of colors in any system design PPT. So okay, let's go ahead. So yeah, namaskar, namaste, hello. I'm Arijit Patra, and I am right now a senior front-end engineer at Instaframe. And I love UI, UX. I love being social offline, and I love visual communication and biryani with dal. Okay, next. So all of you are here, and I can't ask you this question because I am not being able to hear. So anyways, let me set the expectations. So what's in it for you guys in the next 15 to 20 minutes? So in the next 15 to 20 minutes, we will be going through and this PPT and understand the basics of this design system and what is a design system, why we use a design system, and how you use a design system. And we will also see a few examples. Cool. So I'll go ahead. Okay, first question. Why we need a design system? Let's start with the problems first. So design system is a solution to something, but every solution comes with a set of problem. I mean, for a problem to solve, there is a solution. So let's start with what are the problems. And if you see the meme, it says it's about a user interface. Why you not be user friendly? And also for us developers, why the code is not sometimes developer friendly. You mean so when I say that like user friendly, it could be like a button might look different on one screen in the same application. It might look very different on another part of the application, and or a drop down may have like before you there might be have been few more developers who were there in the company. They created their own drop down component, and then they left, and you didn't know. You created when you joined, you created your own, and things happened like that. So maybe just for a drop down you have 4 or 5 different implementations, and those are being used across your application. So ideally it should not be the case. So now suppose if somebody asks you to, hey, please update the drop down, then you need to go to different files and then update those files. So you are doing redundant work. Why not just have only one drop-down component code and then use it everywhere? So yeah, I mean, this is yeah. So I in one of the previous talks, somebody asked you that how many of you are programmers here in this conference, and I think the response was everybody is a programmer. So if you are thinking design system is not for you, it's hold on, it's for you as well. It's for the designers, it's for the PMs, it's for the UI developers, everyone. Okay. Now, as I was saying, there are, if you see these ones, a primary button should look like this. This is just an example. Suppose you're working at X company, and X company follows certain color guidelines, and according to them, everywhere the button should look like this. Wherever it's a primary button, it should look like this. Wherever it's a secondary button, it should look like this. And whenever it's a tertiary button, it should look like this. Or this version is also accepted. But these versions are not accepted. If you see here, the primary button here is little rounded, and that's not what you want. And a primary button here, if you see, it's not in the blue, solid blue color. So all these are problems, and this can happen if you are not like religiously following all the guidelines, or if you don't have a design system. Next example, if you see here, so these are suppose kind of some content image, content headline, and some content description. But here it looks different. But ideally, this should have been the case. That's because there is inconsistency in design. Okay, this is an example of inconsistent page design, where you have the main nav bar here in one page, and the body here. Then on this page 2, you have a main body here, and on beside it, you have the navigation. And on page 3, you have the navigation on the left side and the main body on the right side. That's not what any user would expect when they are visiting your application. They will expect certain kind of consistency. So ideally, a consistent page should be like this. Wherever you have your things, it stays there in every page. If you are having them, I mean, if you are having a nav bar, and if you are using it at the bottom of the screen, then in any page I go, I will expect it to be there. And I don't know if this website exists or not, but the problem here is, if you see, there is so much of fonts here. There is a different font here, there's a different font here, there is a different font here as well, and here also so many different fonts. So as a developer, I have been asked to code, and then you will be left wondering, which font should I use for this one? Which font should I use for this one? If you have a design system, then you just go to your design system documentation and then just import the component for typography and use it accordingly. You don't need to care about how the CSS will look like for what do you call it, the headers, or what font it should have. Your design system takes care of that all, and that reduces your load. You can ship your features faster, and also that what do you call it? It creates a big consistency in the design. So yeah, so these problems are not problem anymore with design systems. So the big question: what is a design system? Well, design system sits somewhere between all these things. It's somewhere between graphics or the design part. It's a set of guidelines also. It's code as well. So whenever you have your UX components translated into React code, you can call it like a React UI component, which you can reuse. And don't worry, these things will get clearer as we progress. We will see more examples. And then for design guidelines, it's like how a design should be used. So if we refer to the previous example that we have seen here, primary button should look like this. This is your guideline. A primary button should not look like this. And then you have your technical specifications as well, like how you can add multiple props to your reusable UI components and make them like achieve different things. Okay, so design system is managing and scaling of design and code with the help of standards, patterns, reusable UI components. It's also a design language. So, so what happens generally when, so I am in Germany right now. I don't know German, so it's very difficult for me as an Indian to communicate with someone in German, right? That's because we don't speak the same language. Or suppose in India, we might not know all the languages, so it's difficult for us to communicate. But for an effective system, you need to communicate in the same and a common language so that everybody understands what everyone is speaking about, right? So this design system thing helps you achieve that. It's like a design. It's like a language of design, where everything has a common set of standards, patterns, and guidelines. It's also a tool to eliminate redundancy, brings in consistency, and clearly defines the guidelines. So no confusion when you are designing a UX or UI design, or even when you are coding. Okay, still, if you are feeling confused, then let's take an example, or let's take a look at few examples. And I think that's better than the talking. And then we will try to connect the dots together. So before going to a few examples of design systems, I'll quickly show you what do you mean by a brand guideline. So mostly every company or a brand, whatever you build, it's kind of a brand or for something. They will have certain guidelines. So for example, if we take a look at this LinkedIn guideline, brand guideline, it has got a lot of things. We won't go to everything. So it says that whenever they use illustrations, they use neutral faces like this, where like kind of flat designs where you don't have the facial features completely. This is their color palette. So whenever LinkedIn applications will only you wherever you like inside LinkedIn, you will only find these colors. You are restricted to these colors only. This is the logo. It should be always used like this. And they have some more things. And then they say that the font they use across LinkedIn, it's called community. So you can't use any other font. Okay, let's get back to our presentation. Oops. Now we can take a look at a few examples of design system. Okay, let's start with Zomato. Zomato's design system is called Sushi Design System. I'm not sure if they are still using it or they have an updated one, but it's an old blog from 2019. And here, we will come to this later on in a different place. So here, if you see, Zomato has said that they will be using only this kind of text sizes, which here, if I zoom in, it's like 27 points for regular, and then 24 for the smaller ones. They're using 11 points, and then they have font weight, different, these three font weights that they're using. And then you have color system also. So they said that we will use only these colors everywhere across our application. And they have also defined, they have restricted themselves to certain set of icons. And they have also clearly defined about the spacing and the shadows. So if I join Zomato, or you join Zomato tomorrow, and then you are a UI developer there, you want to put in 13 pixel of spacing, you are not allowed there to do that, because your design system doesn't allow to do that. And by putting you in constraint, everything stays consistent. And yeah, it's not like that these things are developed over the night. It takes time to build these things, so it's properly well researched and has got some reason why it's like that. So for shadows also, they have mentioned how much shadows you can place. Then they have these buttons thing. So whenever you will have button, what will be the different state of the buttons? How will they look like? How will their different components? So if each of these will be like components in your React UI code, right? So this is how an input box will look like. This is how a search box will look like. So if you have seen any design inconsistency in the Zomato application, which I think you won't generally see because they follow a certain set of patterns and standards. Then there are more. So I will go to the details of everything. Then we can take a look at the example from okay, Razorpay. So Razorpay is okay, it's taking some time to load. And then you have Material UI, which is a little bit generic. You can customize it on your own. Since we have time constraint, I won't be able to go through all of them, but just showing you. So suppose in Razorpay, they have said they have defined 4 different types of buttons, and you can also kind of change like this is kind of a storybook thing where you can change certain properties, and you will get the how it behaves. You will get to see it in real time, and I think inside docs you will also get to see the code. So if you see if I want to use this button as a new developer in the team, how should I use it? So they have also defined that. So it's part of your design system. It's not just design, it's also code and defining the right set of props and making a few constraints. Okay, cool. So in next we see atoms are like very small elements. If you see atoms in a design system, they're the minutest particles. Then we are not talking about design tokens right now. Then we have molecules, organisms, and what I mean by that is, if you see here in this example, so this singularly is one what do you call it? One atom. This singularly is one atom. This is one atom. This is a button. This is an input. This is a label. When I combine all of them, it become a molecule, and it looks something like this. So it's kind of a pattern. You have designed a pattern. Okay, next. So yeah. So again, coming back to what is a design system, it's a code, it's a design library, it's documentation, it's everything together. It's not just design. And why use a design system? Obviously, it has certain benefits, and it reduces something and makes somebody happy. Let's see. So yeah, it's a single source of truth. It's common design language. It increases the consistency. It decreases redundancy in code and design. It helps in maintainability, better code and component reuse, no more confusion or debate on functional and visual consistency. That happens quite a lot in companies where they don't have design system. Makes life easier for the UX team, UI designers, UI devs, PMs, QAs, everyone. Helps thinking components and patterns very clearly. You can like define what all props you want and all. Faster feature releases you can do because you don't need to code everything all over again every time when you're building something, because you already have those in your design system. And easy to learn for new team members in the team also, no searching around in thousands of the files and feeling confused. And how to use a design system? You can maybe use an existing component library like MUI React or some other alternative and customize it according to you. Or you can, from the scratch, build your own design system. And how to like you can also use Storybook to showcase your reusable UI components or some alternatives. So what is a Storybook? It's something like this, a very quick example. It just has got all your UI components in one place, which you can check via your local host URL, or you can host it somewhere. And anywhere new anybody wants, if they want to use any new component, they can just go there, search the name of the component, and see what are the props that they can pass. They can change the props and see how it behaves. They can also get the code of it. I mean, how to use it. They'll just import this component in their code, and then they are done. So Storybook is one of the examples where you can document everything. There could be different alternatives as well. Again, coming back, I think we have very less time, and I'll be quick here. And yeah, so there are, I mean, when you are using a design system, existing one, then you also get certain libraries or I mean, certain assets for Figma, Sketch, or XD that helps you in prototyping. You can publish the code component library that you created as an npm package, or go with a monorepo, and make sure these React UI components that you are creating in a design system, they are dump components. By dump component, I mean that they should not contain any logic. The logic should be there in your code, and these are just for the UI patterns and all. And the question comes like, should you build it in-house versus you should use an existing design system or not? So the problem with building it in-house is it takes a lot of time, and apart from time, it also takes a lot of budget and yeah. So if you can see, if you adopt something, it's low cost, less customization, low brand differentiation, and if you create something, you can make it more customized but with a more cost. And yeah, then you can learn more about design tokens and all. So a quick recap. So what we learned is about what is a design system, why use a design system, and how to use a design system. Either you can create your own, you can use certain existing things. Questions if you have, or if you have time. uh, Anybody has got any question, Arindam? I know I had to be a little quick. So guys, it was like, this is a very vast topic. We can't do it in 15-20 minutes, but the concept was just to make you curious about this. And maybe you already know this thing, you are using it, or you might just not know the term of design system.
Hey, thank you, Arijit. I think we can take all the questions, if any, at the later point in the Q&A session, right? So by that time, I would request all of you to write it down if there, and also like to all who have joined us online, or watching the YouTube streaming, please comment down in the YouTube comment box, and we'll be taking those questions ahead. So thank you, Arijit. I
Thank
think
you.
like from products side of it, to design, to React 360, something like that. So the meetup is all again the product, not only on the code, right? And it will also like help us understanding as a developer that how the other things work, right? So yeah, I think thank you very much, Arijit, once again from joining us. We'll get back to you, and I hope that you'll be stay tuned for the rest of the event as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. So next joining us is Vivashan Roy, and he will be walking us through migrating partially from an Apollo client to URLQ in our Next.js application. So yeah, let's hear it from him. Welcome on stage, Vivashan.
So I started my software engineering by contributing to open source at Mozilla, like basically the task cluster project, and I worked as a front end engineer at startups like Creatella, Bookie, and lately I worked at Feeds as a full stack engineer, and I love meeting people, and I am trying to be a better at fitness, and also I like to dance. Not going to get into the dance forms yet. Okay, anyways. So yeah, so migrating partially from Apollo to Urql in a Next.js application. So I did this project in at Feeds, and I solely worked on this project, and I will be sharing about the journey, the learnings, technical, and also how to solve a problem. So first of all, I would like to know how many of you have worked with you make your hands dirty with GraphQL. Okay, one, two, three, four. Okay, and how many of you have know about Next.js? Have worked something? Okay, seems a bit better. Cool. So maybe I have to also tell a bit about GraphQL before telling other things. Okay, all right. So yeah, so basically, if you know what GraphQL is, I am going to just brief it out since you are not aware. Okay. So you know what REST APIs is, right? I mean, you hit an endpoint and you get results. But what with graph? But the disadvantage of REST API is that you have a specific endpoint, and sometimes there's a problem of overfetching. Like suppose I'm getting some data about a user, and maybe in the I just want the name and the maybe just the name and maybe the college or the roll number or something, and I don't want all the details of the the user. But even without with REST API, you have to get all the data, even though you don't want all the data. So it results in the loss of, like, there is more network requests, more overload, more data you're fetching, so it leads to more data and bad performance. So that's why there is something called GraphQL. So if you see what GraphQL is, yeah. Okay, maybe I can just say something. Yeah. So yeah, so you can say it's like a query language which is heavily used in a lot of projects. Even like Facebook uses it, and a lot of projects are using it. So what this does is that, so the query is something like this. Suppose, yeah. So suppose there is a I think I can give a better example than this. Let me check. Okay. All right. I think my slides could work better here. All right. Suppose, let's go back to this slide. So what happens is that, suppose you have, these are basically type user and type post is a schema, and suppose there is these is like the user has, these are their types like name, ID, image, URL, posts, an array of posts, like the user can have multiple posts, and then there is a type post which has all the data. Now what happens with GraphQL is, suppose I just want, suppose for post there is a lot of things, right? ID, text, post stat, author, like by, and there could be, suppose think there are 10 other fields. But with GraphQL, I have the flexibility of only fetching data what I require. Suppose for like by, you see there is ID, name, and image, URL. For like by is basically an array of users, right? So I just want the basic details of the user. Now if I want, I can even further, if I want that all the people who have liked those posts, I want even the more details of those users, that what those users have posted. I can even further query, further nested, and I will get more details. So that's the flexibility you get. You just get the data as much as you want. Now coming to caching, like there are two basic, like why you need caching, because when you're querying graphical data, you don't want the network request to go again and again if it's already in the cache. And with GraphQL, what happens is that it's not like an HTTP caching where you have an endpoint and you get the results. You These are post requests. Like when you do a GraphQL, it's like you hit the GraphQL endpoint and all the queries, the query, just the example which I gave, those goes into the body of the graphical post request. So you need to cache those things. So now there are clients basically. What are clients is like clients are there are like Apollo clients, Urql or Relay. So how many of you have heard of Apollo client? All right. Yeah, cool. So basically, with what so there are multiple clients to work with. You are like graphical. One is Apollo, Urql, and Relay. And Apollo is, I think, most widely used. So with these clients help you in a lot of things, and one of the things is like caching the graphical queries. So now there are basically two types of graphical queries caching mechanism. One is the normalized caching, which is used by all of them, Apollo, Urql, and Relay. And there is something called document caching, which is only available with the use of the Urql client. Now let's differentiate how this caching things works. The first is that I think I'm making it a graphical com, but I will get back to the action. So what happens is that when you are getting a query, suppose that you are getting a query, this is how in normalized caching the data goes. Like when you get the data, if you see on the right side, your left side, you will see this is how the data is stored in the cache. The type name and the ID, if you see here, the key of the cache, like cache is a key value store, so it has the type name of, it has a key which is a combination of the type of the data, the type name, and the ID. It is like a unique identifier. And so you see the data which I get from this query, from this get user query, in the cache, this is how the data is stored. You see user as user and with the ID of 122, and there are posts. So here is what makes normalized caching very performant. uh, Instead of directly storing the post, it stores the references of the post, and each of the post is again stored with a different key and value, like post 23, and it has the values. And similarly, so what is the advantage of that? Basically data redundancy. You get rid of data redundancy, just like a database has two tables and you have a foreign key. That's how instead of actually storing the data in one table, you just point it, you store the reference. So now you have a mutation query, like suppose like post. So mutation is basically like an update operation. So I'm liking the post, suppose post 23, and I am the user 122 who is liking that post. So what the result, how is the cache updated? You see post 23 now has, in the liked by field, you will see there is an additional user, like user 122. So so what advantage is that you don't have to again store the user 122 is already in the cache. So you just just keep add the reference, and if that user was not there, suppose it was user 755, then it would just create that user and it will just point to a reference. So that's how it improves the it's much more performant. Now coming to document caching. Document caching is like very simple and raw. So if you see it, it just stringifies your query, and the variables, the variables, like for example, for this the variable was id 122. It's like a JSON object. So it just stringifies the query and variables, and just makes a hash, and it just makes things simpler. And yeah, this is how it has a key, the hash value of that, instead of stringifying the query and the variable, and it keeps the result. So in this case, what happens if you make a mutate of like post, you see here it's just storing the entire data. And obviously when you're storing the entire data, it's not storing the reference. You see when I like that post, I am getting additional user data entirely in the post itself. So obviously normalized caching is more performant, but where is document caching more useful? Something like content heavy sites. So for normalized caching, if you talk about Facebook, it is very dynamic application, right? You are adding posts, you are creating posts. It's very dynamic. A lot of states are getting changed. But for content heavy sites, where you are more consuming content, and rather not, you're not exactly updating anything there, you're just consuming content. For those things, document caching can really work. So giving you an example, suppose just give you an example where I think I actually wanted to find, exactly what production apps are there which are using document caching, but I couldn't find it yet, last minute. So suppose this is an app, like a demo app, and suppose this is a React application. I mean, this is not a React application, but suppose this is a React application. And for websites like this, suppose you go to the courses, and yeah, so this is kind of something where document caching could work, because there's something called contentful, like there are content management systems where the content is the content is separated. Like suppose the marketing team creates some content, and you don't really writing the content in the code, you're just fetching the data from the some content provider which some other team could be writing, and you're just posting it. Suppose for this app, suppose it's a React app, and the maybe the instructor is writing the course and you're just fetching the data. So in cases like this, the contentful provides some graphical API, and you just fetch the data, and there is not much interactions in the app, like the content is from external provider, and in that case you can use document caching. And the other advantage of document caching is that if you're using Urql, the bundle size, now Urql has a bundle size about 8 kilobytes if you're not using the normalized cache, but if you're using Apollo or something, 32 kilobytes. So it's in terms of bundle size, Apollo is pretty huge. So if your application suppose just requires something like this, you don't need to bother about normalized caching. And if you think document caching is enough, you can start with Urql. And obviously, this is how Urql works. So it has something like exchanges. If you are aware of if you know of Apollo has something like Apollo links. Similar to that, Urql has something like exchanges. So Redux, right? Redux has something like a middleware, like lot of middlewares to process the data. So similarly, Urql has exchanges. So when you make a GraphQL query or a GraphQL mutation, it passes through different exchanges, like so and so forth exchanges, and it goes to the network and it comes back. And this is what's the flexibility which only Urql provides in comparison to Apollo, is that if you want document caching, you can use that exchange. And if you think at certain point your app is requiring graph cache, you can, like, the document cache is the default cache of the Urql, but if the app becomes complex and it has a requirement of normalized caching, you can just install a new package of graph cache and you can just plug it in. So this is how it works. Like you're initiating a Urql client and there are an array of packages. Now if you want to support server side rendering, so your app supports server side rendering, in that case you add an exchange of SSR, and and it's done. It adds that functionality. Now coming to I guess you all know about React Suspense. So without having the React Suspense feature, what happens is that suppose you have so this is basically a Next.js application, like the page component of the Next.js, and you are requiring data from the GraphQL query, and this is a variable, and you get two data. One is data and is loading state. So this is like a pattern. So if suppose there is no data, if it's still loading, it shows the loader, and if the it's no more loading, the data is fetched, it returns the component. So this is like a very basic pattern. But with suspense for data fetching, if it supports both in client and server side, your code would be much simpler. Suppose there is suspense, there is fallback, and you literally get rid of the you get rid of the loading state. You don't have to care about whether the data is loading or not, because whenever the data is loading, uh, it just fallbacks to the loader. So it's kind of an you don't have to keep, there is no code duplication of that same logic. But suppose now, like this use query hook which you see is from Urql. Like if you are using your React Urql hook, suppose for certain Urql queries, suppose you need more customization, just like the loader which I saw, if it's loading to a different loader or something. For certain cases like that, you have the flexibility. You can pass inside the use query, you can pass a parameter of like suspense equals to true. So even if the suspense equals to false, so even if globally you have turned suspense on for data fetching, for specific queries you can still turn off the suspense, and you can, in that case you can use those loading state, and you can do more customizations. Now, there are two things. If you're using Urql, there are two things. One is you use the package called Next Urql, and there is something called React SSR Prepass. Okay, so the reason why I chose Urql, like why we thought of migrating from Apollo to Urql, was because the thing which I showed here. So the suspense for data fetching both on client and the server is only supported in Urql as of now. Like Apollo has recently started an RFC, I think, which is still a work in progress. But when I worked like 1 year back, Urql is the only thing, and still it's the only one which supports suspense even for the the server side. And for that, let's dive into some internals. So how does it support suspense in the backend? So the next Urql has a, so if you see, let's go to the code. Yeah, I think it's visible, or maybe I need to. Is it visible now? Yeah, cool. So like this is basically the package. Like I dive deep into the package. So there is next Urql, and this with Urql client wrapper. Now if you see here that they are using something here down, something called SSR prepass. So like the next ssr prepass package, so what it does is that when you are turning suspend on for the server side as well, because of this because of the ssr prepass, what it does is that like when it's going through the when it's going through the, it walks down the react tree basically, and it looks for all the places where where all the GraphQL queries are. So this is basically when you are doing server side rendering. So when you are server side rendering, you want, it's better to have all your GraphQL queries already fetched at the, also at the backend, and the while rendering, and just return the entire HTML to the front end. So in that case, for making that possible, what SSR pass does is that the app tree is basically the top React component. It walks through the React tree, and whenever it finds that there's a the GraphQL query is still, like in simpler terms, the GraphQL query is still fetching results, it just waits at that point, and only when all the GraphQL queries are are resolved, and only then this entire SSR prepass gets it gets resolved. So you already, when you are returning the data in the front end, all the GraphQL queries are already fetched, and you don't get the loader on the first initial loading. I mean, first initial render. Okay. Okay, coming to this. So you guys know of higher order components, right? I mean, yeah. So basically, when so we already had Apollo. So when you migrate from one app, you are adding a new library or some things, and you want to migrate from one technology to other. You obviously can't get rid of it completely, and and you just plug one thing. You when it's a big application basically. So what you do is that you partially migrate. Maybe you take certain pages, certain parts of the app where you start using a new technology, and you gradually migrate and also experiment. So that's what we did. Like we already had Apollo, and we introduced Urql. So what we could do here is that I really love this pattern basically, like install. So install is a higher order component. Now for certain pages where we were using Urql, we just use this higher order component, and we just set Urql to true, and wherever we are not using it, like it doesn't exist. So in that way, we were only using Urql in pages, we were just loading the library where we required and where we not. And I think I just love this install pattern. So it's basically a higher order component, and it only installs the modules which are required if you set it to true. Okay, so one challenge when I was migrating was that like the migration was going good. But one thing is, even when I was after logging out of the application, you need to reset the cache, right? Because you don't want a profile, like whenever you sign out, you want the cache to be refreshed, and you don't want the profile data to still exist because it's a completely new view. So but even after logging out, the profile data was still there, though somewhere, we were doubts like why it's not happening. Though the first thing which, so this is how the code was. Okay, I think it's okay, maybe, yeah, I don't know why it's not zooming. Okay, maybe it's the picture. Cool. Is it visible anyway? Like, if is it visible or not? Okay. Okay, there's a better way. Cool. Yeah. Okay, so basically this is the place where we initialize the Urql library and had a provider here. This is the code basically. So we so whenever we when so this is the props. So we were getting these two like whenever we were using this Urql client wrapper from the library itself, we get two props. One is the Urql client and one is the resale Urql client, to reset the Urql client basically. And since it was inside a provider, we wanted access outside the outside the React application. So what we did is that we just set external variables, which just it just sets external variables which just reinitialize, just re-declares the, or I can say reinitialize. Okay. Okay, yeah. So it basically takes this and it just sets sets it in external variables so that you can access it even outside the provider. So I was very much worried that maybe somewhere here it was going wrong, that why this was not happening, why the Urql cache was not getting updated. And obviously after maybe after few weeks of blaming it on yourself and checking maybe my implementation was wrong, maybe you start looking at the library, maybe the library has certain bugs or something. So in that case, what you do is that the how you can derive at the conclusion that it's your fault or it's the library's fault is just take that library what you are using, and you just have a simpler project, maybe a hello world project or like that, and you use that maybe library in that application, like a simpler you can say a minimal viable product as you say, and you experiment with that library in that, and you come to the conclusion whether it's the app or whether it's the library which is causing the bug. And it turns out that there were certain issues with the library. So in that case, okay, yeah. Yeah, so in that case I figured out, and like sending a pull request to that this is the issue and these are the fixes. I don't know how much you will actually try to you will get it if I try to explain you what was the fault. I mean, but yeah, so these are the basic two things which were like fixes kind of, which we thought that which will fix the thing. And why, and also at the same time we were in urgent to deploy the things to production. So what we did that unless the the PR was merged, we just use my branch temporarily in the package or JSON until that get resolved. So that was like a quick fix. But unfortunately, even after all these fixes, like still there were certain things which still the logout was not working. And what the conclusion was that it's not going to get fixed, kind of. So like this is what I what happens is that if you have a pause operation, pause is basically something which you get with which, if you want to pause the Urql operation, basically suppose for this use my account. Obviously, if you are not logged in, you don't want to even use that get profile data app query, so you can just pause the operation. And this, what happens is that whenever you are going from from pause state to unpause, like from unpause state to pause state after logout or something, because of how the Urql is drawn, like, it's still not going to get fixed. And so the solution was to just refresh the page after logout. Yeah, so that just, and anyway, it's not a bad user experience because people do expect that if you sign out, the page gets refreshed. So yeah, that's it. And these are my handles if you want to. Thank you.
Thanks, Vivashan. I hope your PR did not take too long to get merged. Having said that, so we are almost at the end of the meetup today. So we will now be accepting all the questions that we had throughout the event. I know all of you have a few questions, might be. So just stay tuned, hold for a little bit more. So give us 2 time. We'll be back, with the setup in the stage, and then we'll be able to take all the questions that you guys have. Thank you. And in the meanwhile, please don't forget to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. The React Wizard. The channel name is React Wizard.
Your talks were really insightful. So, okay. So let's start with the Q&A session. So I would like to invite the panelists. So Vivaswan, Anutosh, and Sagar, please come onto the stage. So this is Sagar,
Yeah.
Anutosh,
Anutosh.
and Luswan. So let's start. Let's start with the Q&A session. So we have the first question. Will Solid.js or Remix replace React? If that is the case, what is the future for React? Anyone of you can start or take up this question.
Okay, so first of all, like I didn't work both with Remix or Solid.js, but I think like it's just a framework on top of React, I guess. So this is obviously like if you are aware of Kenzie Docs gave a talk on web's next transformation, and it like about how right now we are in the age of single page apps, and Remix is basically about progressively enhanced single page apps, and obviously that's the future. So I don't know whether React will replace it or not, but obviously it will be or it will use React, but it will be on top of that. It will it will add up, it will make some framework which will be using React, just like Next.js, which powers React, but I don't think it can completely get rid of React.
So the final conclusion is React is safe.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, the next question. What are your thoughts on TurboPack? So how will this affect the Webpack? Would you like to take that question?
Yeah, you can take.
You can take.
No, you can.
I'm not sure about Webpack, but I'm sure about Webpack.
Same here.
Yeah, it's a very robust library for managing. Yeah, I'll say Webpack is again very skeptical about it. I will say that Webpack. I will stick with Webpack for now. I need to check
So
what
I
exactly Webpack offers.
So you mean to say the TurboPack is not completely proven as of now? So it was
exactly
introduced.
in the industry
recently.
mostly we are using Webpack for
Yes.
bundling the packages. So it's more stable and mostly preferred. So
So the claims that TurboPack is making is not yet proved completely.
right.
Cool. Okay, moving on to the next question. So, how do you approach a new framework or a technology? Any new framework or a technology? What is the right path to approach that?
So before starting any framework, the most important thing is to know understand the language and understand the programming language on which the framework is based on. So once that programming language is being thoroughly explored, after that one can start exploring the frameworks because that becomes easier. So that is the general way that should be followed.
So you mean to say first we need to master the language on which that particular framework is using, and then dive
Correct.
deeper into that.
Yes. Yes.
We have a very great example of this right now with us. So Dart was there from 2011, so 2011, but it got popularized with Flutter, right? So Dart is again a very general purpose language, but Flutter and the ability, the development experience make it great. So it's a combination of language combined with the developer experience, and again the community also matters. How much lines of code is already there in production, that also matters for companies to take upon. So the if a new framework is coming on the market, we have already old framework, either that should give a very high value to a specific use case. Let's say the Flutter give it to that, like the prototyping on a Flutter is so fast that not any other technology or any other framework is able to capture, like do it that fast. We had a React native, but again we don't have that much. We have something called as robustness, and we can say there are more videos and more resources available for React Native. But if you want something quick, and we can say Flutter is best in terms of that. So if a new framework is coming, they should solve a problem in a magnitude of 10x. Then only it's a it's a way, because I can give my example. Like I started exactly with Flutter, but I figure out there were not that many jobs. I learned that and that, and then I decided to go ahead and look at the React side. I was more UI person, but when I looked at the React community was so massive that the small part of not having that great development experience compared that to Flutter, that just balance it out. Yeah.
Okay, so for a framework to be successful, you need to say the community matters a lot,
Community-
and the support which they give.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the problem that they are solving, that should be at least like 10x, 2x. That should be in the magnitude of x. That will only give that will probably give users to try that. So once user is trying, one the client or the all the parties are trying that, and then they figure out the framework is good. But if people don't try it out the framework only, that's already dead.
Okay, let's move to the next question. So, given the current situation, how should developers upskill themselves? So, we are in a tech crisis currently. So, what are the suggestions that you would like to give for the developers to go through this lean patch?
I mean, just I mean, it's like if there is a tech crunch, like you just to be like the question how to be upskilled, right? I think the best way of upskilling is like if you want to learn something, like if you have been in a job for suppose and you have been using or maybe something which is suppose you have been using a PHP suppose and and you have been laid off and you want to upskill yourself because you are comfortable in a 10 years job and you upskill yourself. So I think the way to upskill is just to be active in the community first of all to know what is there in the market. I think just like React, we know I learned about GraphQL and everything which you can only know when you attend tech conferences or events or also being active in the Twitter community is first you get to know what is really required of you. That's the first thing to like what you need, what are the skills you actually require, what are the technologies which people are actually using right now, and then maybe start working on just play projects, like maybe get some course and play projects to start learning those technologies and also keeping your fundamentals strong. I think even when the interviews which I have given, they still don't care about whether you know React or Step.js. In a lot of jobs, they require that whether you know a bit basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you can have a better problem solving ability. And I think apart from skills, I think problem solving is still the most important. So just somehow maybe solving different problems is going to do it and not the tech thing.
So, we should concentrate more on
Pro-
problem solving
yeah,
ability
yeah.
and the skills.
Yes.
That's the way to
Yeah,
survive.
problem solving is a skill.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
the market research is important. Like which are the technologies that the industries are currently using. Also based on the geographical location that we are in, like which technologies are being used more and currently in demand. It's better to learn them rather than to go after technologies which are very rarely used or which are not being that frequently adopted. So I think that is a way, and I think the best way is to keep yourself motivated in these tough times, because that's the only thing that is in our hands. And if you are working hard and upskilling yourself and putting efforts, I think definitely there will be ways out. Maybe some companies are laying off people, but there are many companies as well which are optimistic about hiring as well. So it's not like everything is going in the worst direction.
I would say that it's just a current phase, right? Everything seems to be a little good, getting slow or going down. Uh, what you can control is your skills and your ability to improve on your current skills. So yeah, just don't be don't be like still. Just keep on creating some side projects, like watch YouTube tutorials, keep upskilling yourself, take some Udemy course, upskill yourself, and whenever you get an opportunity, whenever you see a LinkedIn post, just go and grab that opportunity, I will say. Saving part is also important. So as a developer, you might get a very good salary, but saving part is also important. As we can see that if recession is going to be there, then looking at that point of view, you should also save some money for your future expenses. And but we are in the tech, guys. Each and every industry can go down, but I don't see tech going down anywhere soon. It's just a matter of time, 6 months, 8 months, but after that we'll be on a rally again.
True. It's a cycle
Yeah.
for everything.
Exactly.
It goes up and it comes down sometimes. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we have the last question. So current layoff situations in Meta, if we see that, is it going to affect the core React team? If that is the case, how does that affect the React community?
It's a very great question, I believe, and uh, it's also there are a lot of things. So when a open source, so React is open source, right? But still, there's a backing of Facebook to it. People are contributing to React core project, but let's say if the owner of the exact project says that we are not going to put that much money or that much resources into the core development, that we might see again little pushback from features, but as a community as a whole, I don't see that affecting much. Maybe for some small time. Uh, you can always look at the examples like what's happened to Angular, uh, but you, but industry will keep on going. We might see a new framework or new something, but React is here for at least 5 years, and so maybe the project get transferred to someone else, or that self, maybe React becomes so stable, it's already stable, but becomes so stable that the new updates are not that much required, and with the current resources only they will manage that.
So you mean to say it doesn't impact that much? Maybe the further releases may be delayed a bit.
Yeah.
That's all.
Also we are not sure, right, that people who are laid off from Meta, we are not sure to which teams they are belonging and to whom, what kind of background they are belonging from, right? And apart from that, I think React is an open source library, so besides the employees of Facebook or Meta, people all around the world, developers all around the world are contributing to that open source and adding new features, giving ideas. And besides that, it has been adopted in so many companies and have become so stable now that I don't think it going down, or I don't think any like kind of over situation for React.
So any questions from the audience that you want to ask the panel?
I had one question for
Yes, please.
design system.
Yeah, we can ask. Okay, that is interesting. Okay.
Is on
Is he still there?
You can probably lay down the question and then get back to the slide.
Yeah, the question is, he mentioned about XML design system, some references, right, rather than building our own design. So, like, you can share some reference about existing design systems, like some reference.
So I'll share an approach.
Yeah, he just mentioned you can use existing, but which are
Maybe you go.
I think one design system, I think I have heard a lot, like Adobe has a great design system. They don't market it, and I have not yet extensively, used or, type into the documentation. But I think I have heard that Adobe has a great design system, and it is also very much accessible. Like accessibility is also very much taken care of. So that's a great one you can look at.
But is it is it available to use for the other organizations as well?
I think it is open source. How far I know.
You can take a very lean
I actually have to
approach.
see. I'm not sure about that.
You can always take a very lean approach and just Google search about what exactly the free open source or most used design systems are, and after 4 5 articles you will stumble upon something that you want. Yeah, a panelist can give a very descriptive answer, I think.
Cool guys. Any other questions?
Yeah. So we have my question was regarding SSR.
Okay.
In React or in the web community, SSR is very popular and common system. But when I was looking on the mobile application, and I still find that SSR is lacking on that.
You means React Native or something, or what?
Yeah, kind of React Native. So though the meta tags and everything are there, but still the pure SSR that we are using in web technology. So what's your comment upon the details there?
I actually not used React Native yet.
Yeah. Almost same here. We don't have that many experience with that. Yeah.
Okay, so one point being, I'd like to take the answer. So one point being, I mean, if you look at the browser versus your mobile, right? So in your browser, you always have like a lot of availability of internet, right? So it's easy to sort of load the server side different components. But on contrast, if you are using something in mobile, and especially if you talk about React Native and with the React Native old architecture with the JS side, right? So always the JavaScript bridge had to sort of interact with your case on the browser and then on your compiling those into your native mobile platform, right? Even native mobile applications. So I don't think, I mean, there are a lot of scope of SSR in the mobile domain. But then, yeah, I mean, if you look at the new architecture of React Native, how they work, like how they possibly added, there are a lot of insightful, at least declarations on SSR.
So I guess you might have heard about Expo, right?
Right.
So Expo has recently launched their router. So I guess that is the main problem between the native and the web. That router that we use in the React is very customizable or very flexible. But in native we have the problem with the so Expo has come with a very unique idea of cross-platform in terms of router itself. So do you think that that might be the future, like having a cross-platform router?
I would say, I mean, I would like to wait and watch for that because like apart from like cases are also there are a lot of other things coming into the mobile development ecosystem. If you look at, say for example, we often say about like portable plugins or the hybrid, right, which has not been there. But then if you look in deeper, like WebView has never left mobile, even now. So it's hard to answer right now. I'd like to wait and watch for that. I mean, I agree. I mean, Expo is working a lot on the SSR for quite a few times right now. So there might be some sufficient improvements in SSR on the mobile domain, but yeah, let's see. So it's too early to answer that.
Fine. Any more questions from the audience? Fine. Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you all again for coming across from the different parts of the city in this weather. And we expect you all to be part of the active community that we are building. So reminding you all again, you can follow React Wizard in both Instagram and pardon me, in both LinkedIn and Twitter, and be a part of something that we are trying to do. So at our core, again, I'm repeating, like we love community driven learning. We believe in sort of distributing the learning that we get each and every day while working in different projects, right? So that helped us a lot building GeekyAnts where it is today, and also we thought of relaunching the community initiative once again. So having said that, that's all from my end. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me. You can follow our GeekyAnts YouTube channel. So you can more often look a few videos that I post, majorly maybe workshop or TikTok types. So just of self promoting. But yeah, you can follow us on the YouTube channel. You'll be able to learn a lot of things over there. So that's all from my end. Cheers! Thank you once again, and I will invite Africa to just give the wrap up note over here. Cheers, guys! Thank you.
Hi everyone, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us again on a Saturday evening. I mean, good reaction, thank you. You all can smile a little bit, you guys are off the hook now. So we do, like Arindam said, we do a lot of meetups. Every now and then we did Flutter. We are coming up with design system as well. So it's an open invitation for all the meetups, not just the ones you're learning right now or working on. But I think you all can contribute to the community, learn from each other. Like he said, we are a very community driven company and we want to give it back to all of you. So thank you for joining us and keep visiting us, and also let us know if you all have any ideas. We will be more than happy to do collaborations and also some tech talks and meetups with any of the ideas you all have, right? So feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn and follow us on Twitter. And once again, thank you for joining.
So just to give you more context, every alternate Friday we have our React workshop going on. And then apart from React also for different technologies also we are exploring a lot day by day.